Yo, what's happening, world? Name's Ryan Flowers, and this is just me improvising. No specific subject matter what I'm gonna talk about. I mean, I'm just looking at things that's going on in life, and everybody, it's like everything is just one big ass frenzy with all these ideologies, whether it be these feminazis, that Me Too movement, whether it be the McTile movement, men going their own way, or the swirl movement, or just all this ageism that goes on in bullshit terms like old head that, we all know hip-hop's favorite hamster likes to use. I understand, man. A lot of cats in the generation before me and those who are a little older, they fucked up. And we're supposed to clean up the junkyard, looking like Fat Albert's crew, looking like a bunch of goofies like Dumb Donald. Yep. I mean, hip-hop ain't even hip-hop anymore, it's just hip-hop. Just a bunch of niggas out here dressing all flamboyant, trolling. And you've noticed all this stuff has been catching up because they've emitted certain dark energy out there. And even though they've achieved things like fame, look what they got in return. Look at Young Thug's situation. Look at Takaki's situation with the feds. All that. Being a part of one sick-ass industry. Remember Charlemagne? Charlemagne the Sambo, the same dude who named himself after a French leader, Lenny? He always talked about how he liked getting his salad tossed by a bunch of women. Old pan. Now that dude, now he's indulged in a bunch of industry pansexual shit. Just gotta call it what it is. He was also the same one who said that he's scared to talk about Jews because he knows what it is. That's why he was being so cordial with Leo Cohen when he was doing that interview with him. I also thought about another thing. Another Caucasian Jew. To another one. MC Search has been doing a lot of interviews with, Vlad. And I was thinking about certain interviews that even back then Professor Griff had, where he was talking about how he had issues with MC Search and Leo Combs, and he seems like such a genuine guy. Very humble. A lot of humility. But then you always got to question what a person's motive is behind that. I do that with Chance the Rapper. Yeah, Chance donated $1 million+ to a school here in Chicago. Yeah, Chance, he's the type of individual who just seems like a stand-up guy, but then you gotta see, well, he got into a situation with Justice League, and it was legal matters with his content. Chance makes slick-ass, passive-aggressive remarks to Joe Budden last year, and they commented on it, on the Everyday Struggle. You always gotta, this is why I always emphasize on the transparency, especially when it comes to me, and whatever shortcomings that even I have. But we always gotta take it back to the elders. Yeah, I understand that it became cool to go in on black women. I understand that. And I also understand that there are things that black women gotta answer for. Especially the ones who celebrate being a single mother. Especially the ones who go on and put... And even though this has become more of a universal thing, but I would say especially when it comes to the whole child support matters, and when it comes to the criminology aspect, and the celebration of a thug. And I learned this recently. I'm not even gonna front. I learned this from Judah, and then I looked it up for myself, just for confirmation purposes on what being a thug is. And it's in regards to bandits in the East Indian region. They got it in Urdu, they got it in Hindi, they got it in Punjabi. Thugge. Thugi. Like a thug. And I'm sure that this has some sort of mythological, metaphysical origins behind it. Either venerating probably one of the many avatars in Hindu gods. But I gotta look more into that. I also gotta think about the fact that, you know, instead of people being hooked on heroin, you got people getting stuck on lean. Promoting that shit all day. Gucci Mane, Chief Keef, Future. Gotta admit it, these Texas rappers like Pimp C, cats like Sauce Walker. So, I mean, it gets to a point where you get in your own way of success and you poison your own community. It's fucking crazy, isn't it? Like, how did it get so bad that a motherfucker like DJ Academics could even call himself a DJ with the limited amount of knowledge that I'm sure doesn't even go back to the late 90s? Definitely not the early, and most definitely not the 80s. Yep. This is the same dude who sensationalized off of the murders of Chicago and treated that shit like a comic book, or like he thought that meeting all these drill niggas was like going to Comic-Con. That's what that fuckboy gerbil Academics thought it was. Yup. But you know what it lets me know? There's no standards that go on. And to be honest with you, there's no standards because there's a lack of masculine energy. It's too much of feminine energy that is radiating, that is emitting out here in this world, especially in the Western world. The woman is a very valuable being, but at the same time, you don't deify anybody, because when you deify a human being, 9 times out of 10, that ego gets the better of them. Nobody has that type of Zen Buddhist training. Like, what, you think these motherfuckers are taking notes down by Osho and think, oh, well, they hear a couple YouTube videos and now they just know humility? Nah, humility comes from training yourself. Yup. Knowing your flaws, having a strong sense of self-awareness, knowing the good about you, the good attributes and the bad attributes. Not just being on your own dick, because so many people in the so-called black community love to be on their own dick about what goes on in history, but don't even look at the shortcomings that we have. It's always good to look at the positive contributions that was made by melanated beings. Of course. I mean, Chris is a Sanskrit and goes for black, and it's ironic that one of the gods that they venerate down there in India, and more specifically Hindus, they venerate them, but now they made it inverted, and it got to the point where they shit on you for being a dark-skinned Indian. And more specifically, like Indian people from India that's from the South Indian region. I grew up with a bunch of them. They used to take me to school as a little kid, me and my siblings at school. And I started like, man, I see the pigmentation in these cats from India. I've seen dark-skinned Cubans. And with India, there were people known as the Dravidians, the indigenous people. And even when you think about other indigenous people, like in Australia, one of the last indigenous Australians, or at least in recorded history, was a woman named Fanny. Now, what do you know about Fanny? That's being described as a body part. So everything has an interconnection with it, whether you realize that or not. And I'm still learning. You just gotta see the signs, look at the etymology, take notes down, and question them more and more and more. That's what I've been doing. Listening. I delve into so many things in YouTube. And just when I read certain books, I got a large catalog of books on Amazon. I go on certain websites that I bookmark because they stand out to me and they have consistent information that they present. I've watched the Big Thing channel, even though I'm iffy about that, as well as being iffy on TED. Listening to Chronicles of Judah. Even keeping my tabs on dudes like Vlad. Because he's like the detective. You see a situation that goes on ARAB. You see situations where Vlad even took something from me. This is like, I remember I liked a video pertaining to a brother at a sports center. Can't even remember his name right now. And it was in regards to Kendrick and a Drake feud. And he, if anybody's familiar with that Jew's channel, he likes to do flashbacks. And that's what he did with me. And I got the facts to back it up too. I screenshotted it and all. That's what people do, man. Make sure that whatever energy you put out there, whatever ideas that you have, just make sure that you keep them for yourself until you're ready to present it and implement it to the world, or supplement it to the world, excuse me. Yep. So, yeah. This is just a freestyle video, just to let y'all know. I ain't even in the mood to talk about something specific. I'm just going off top, like I'm some sort of rapper. Even though a lot of these rappers do that these days. And that's why this shit sucks. Even though Lil Wayne and Jay-Z, who they got the idea from Biggie, has done it, I don't know if it's necessarily going off top per se, but more of like writing it down mentally in your head and then internalizing it. Because I believe that's what they do with their bars. See, you can't get by if you don't have respect for those who came before you, who paved the way. And unfortunately, hip-hop is going to learn that the hard way. And that's why everything's in disarray right now. There's no standards being held, there's no leaders, and we see what happens. I could even tell you, even in Chicago, when they locked up Larry Hoover, when they locked up Jet Fort, the one they called Chief Malik, when they killed, or not even killed, when they shot up Willie Lloyd, who I believe died back in 2013. Correct me if I'm wrong. Like, you get rid of the head and you know the body part will instantly fall off. When there's nobody to, maintain order, guess what these niggas are gonna do? They're gonna act chaotic. They're going to indulge in anarchy. And the funny thing is, most dudes who I see find themselves getting in problem is because of their own ridiculous ego, or because there was a broad involved. And the funny thing is, one of the goddesses, and I believe Greek goddess, was known as Eris, who was the goddess of chaos. So go figure. And the funny thing is, and this is how you know this is a subconscious thing in this world. You have these feminists out here who create a muck, especially the Tumblr ones, especially the ones who talk about the Me Too movement. You hear them do all this, and you see that people are honestly and subconsciously taking things from Western and Greek culture. Even Thomas Jefferson and the Jefferson Bible and the values that they had, the so-called founding fathers had, came from Plato. And we see what Greek culture has done to the world, how things are considered quote-unquote westernized. And this all boils down to Greek/Roman and the Saturn worshiping and all that other crazy junk. You will condemn paganism and yet indulge in it. It's no wonder why girls look like a bunch of, no wonder why they look like a bunch of thoughts during Easter. Oh, girl, you looking so fine on Easter. Yeah, because guess what? You still are indulging in Ishtar. And those Easter eggs are those fertile, they stand for fertility. So when you see a girl dressing up wearing like mini skirts, you know subconsciously it all is because you're venerating a god like Ishtar. Me being a son of a Muslim, I've always questioned Islam. I used to go in. I used to listen to Pat Condell. I used to question things in the Quran, but it's bigger than that. Number one, Islam is hijacked. Because even though I don't give a fuck about these Abrahamic religions or any religion for that matter, they all have certain levels of truth in it. And for Islam, I really do believe that it was the melanated Persians or Mesopotamians, Babylonians at a certain point in time, and then during the Arab slave trade, that's when shit went amok. And it was those Caucasian Arabs that was fucking shit up. Yep. Messing up Indian temples known as Nalanda. Correct me if I said that wrong. Creating a lot of genocides, messing up a bunch of sacred grounds. Even when you think about, and I personally believe that, this is just my opinion / theory, I believe that Muhammad ibn al-Razi was a melanated Persian. And he was spitting on Islam, or what they call Islam, or Mohammedanism, them idly worshiping another man, and they're doing that shit subconsciously. Because anytime somebody says something about the so-called Prophet Muhammad, guess what would happen? You would have to face death. And if you had a depiction, look at Matt Stone and Trey Parker from South Park. But it makes me wonder how the man really looked like and what he really stood for. And did he really, and it all goes back to the whole Saturn worshiping. Because guess what? You know what Muslims always tell you? You know what the Imams always tell you and what they said? What I heard growing up, that he ran into Jabril or Gabriel, one of the 7 archangels. Gabriel. Or they called him Jabril. But yeah. And even when you think about the big black stone, it's called Al-Masuk. And I learned recently, in Arabic means the, or family / clan. But what are you being a clan to? That's what you gotta ask yourself. Zelda belonged to a royal family, which was known in Hyrule, and Link was in that timeline known as the hero of time. And the god of time was also known as Kronos, who has a connection to Saturn. So there's that. In Superman is looked at as some sort of savior, and his birth name is Kal-El, and his father's name is Jor-El, and he was there to look over humanity. So this was even subconsciously embedded in all these comic books, movies, and even Stan Lee dying. Marvel, E-L, last words. Supernatural beings. Everything got a connection, bro. But long story short, just make sure that you respect those that came before you, who actually look to lay down certain foundations, like Marcus Garvey, like brothers like Booker T. Washington, Frederick Douglass, you know, the Bob Marleys of the world, who even started up a revolution in Africa, and then you find out in Jamaica he gets shot up when he's asleep. That's not what killed Bob Marley, but Bob Marley got shot in his sleep. Pretty fucked up. These brothers knew something. I used to be one of those cats who was a debunker. I used to go in on people who would be considered conspiracy theorists. They were just talking out their ass and just doing shit for attention and just being a bunch of shock jocks. And even though many are still like that, but there are those who just are critical thinkers and they have empirical evidence and consistent data that they're presenting, but because things can be distorted in this world, even the numbers amount, even the amount of evidence that you show, because then you have people who are deceitful, deceptive. So gotta look at that too. I mean, I think about Dick Gregory. And there was a book on my Amazon. It was called like The History of Lies. But I gotta say, objectively speaking, I don't have an issue with Dick Gregory. But Dick Gregory was affiliated with the likes of Hugh Hefner. He'll tell you these things about Hollywood. And then you also have to think about whatever issues he was having with Dr. Sebi and why. In addition to that, even Malcolm was saying how he was saying Dick Gregory was a puppet. So you gotta look at who these people consider the source, who these people associate themselves with, what do they stand for, what is it that they look for in life, and what is it that they're saying, like the underlining statements that they make. Angela Davises of the world, the people who are always venerated, the Maya Angelos, the Michael Lucifer Coons, Martin Luther King. Yep. A. Philip Kundolf, the guy who contributed to Marcus Garvey being deported, as well as W.E.B. Boulay, calling him a monkey. So you just gotta have an ear and an eye for discernment, being astute. So yeah, that's how I'm gonna end this video off. Peace, everyone.